Okay, so just for edification of our recording, this is the village board's January 10th of 2022 board meeting work session. And we now have with us our auditor with O'Connor Davies, Alan Cassay, and he's going to take the board through the audited financial statements for the year ended May 31, 2021.
Okay.
So Alan, welcome again, and
Good evening.
Happy New Year to you.
Hi, Alan.
Thank you. Happy
Alan,
New Year.
Thank you.
Hi, Alan.
Yeah.
I apologize for not being able to make the last meeting. I had dental surgery and I was pretty much out of it. But everything is fine now. So, okay, to get started, I'd like to start on the first page after the table of contents, which is the independent auditor's report. I'll just go through this briefly.
Oh, and let me just say, I'm sorry for the public's edification. We will be making the financial statements available on the village's website, as we always do, under the treasurer's page.
I mean, I could have prepared a PowerPoint, but I think it's important to go through the whole report to see it all in its context. Okay. So on the first page after the table of contents is the independent auditor's report. And basically, I'll go through the paragraphs. I'm not going to read everything, but it says the first paragraph discusses what we did. We audited the financial statements of the village for the year ended May 31st, 2021. The second paragraph discusses management's responsibility, which is the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. The auditor's responsibility paragraph indicates that we're required to express an opinion based on our audit, which we have done. And if you flip the page to the top of page 2 is our opinion. And this is an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion. It's the best opinion you could receive. Below that are just some required supplementary information, including management's discussion and analysis, and some other information. But if you turn to page 4, which is management's discussion and analysis, and as indicated by the name of the report, it's prepared by management. It's an overview of the financial activities that occurred in the village during the year. It's in a narrative form and it's very easy to read. And it's very informative. It was prepared by, I believe, Jim or Lori and Jim. It's very well written. And that goes to page 13. I'm not going to go through that, but I do recommend everybody read it. I would like to turn to page 13, which is the statement of net position. Because in most cases, when people do look at the report, they look at the first page. And when they look at this, they may get a bit of a shock. If you go down to the last number on the bottom, you'll see that the net position is a deficit of almost $12 million. You have to keep in mind that this statement is based on the full accrual basis, which means that there are items on this statement that are not included in the governmental funds. For example, if you look at the assets section, you'll see the number regarding the capital assets, about 34 million. That does not appear in the governmental funds. And the details for the capital assets are on page 33 of the report. But what does create that deficit, if you go down to the liabilities, towards the bottom of the liabilities, you'll see non-current liabilities. And that's a total of about 61 million, almost 62 million. And included in that is your other long-term debt, your bonds payable and your other post-employment benefits, which is basically what's creating this deficit. Now, this page and the page after it, the statement of activities, was implemented by the Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB, statement number 34 back in 2005. So hopefully everybody is familiar with it. And the intent of this statement in the next page was to put municipalities on a level playing field with other entities that issue debt. Their thinking was that if you compare apples to apples, the investors will have a better idea of which bonds to buy and not to buy. But the bottom line is it really doesn't work because your activities are all in your governmental funds, your general fund, your capital projects fund, and so forth. So this statement and the statement on page 14, which is the statement of activities, which is basically the profit and loss statement for the full accrual basis, does not really reflect the activities of the village. The statement of activities, on the top of the page, you have your program revenues, and those are revenues that could be directly associated with one of the functions or programs to the left. Below that, you have your general revenues, which are not associated with any of the functions or programs or your appropriations for that matter. They're just general revenues. But again, this is mostly informational. It does not affect your budget. It does not affect your bond rating. There isn't one municipality that I'm aware of who ever had a bond call with either Moody's or Standard & Poor's where the bond rating agency discussed these two pages. Okay? Important to keep in mind because when you see that deficit, if some of your residents look at this report and they question it, basically you could tell them what I just told you. Okay? What I would like to do is turn to page 52 and 53, which is really what the village is all about. 52 and 53 is the schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, the budget and actual for the general fund. On the left-hand side, as you can see, is the activity for 2021, and the comparative information is on the right-hand side. So if you look at your revenues, your original budget was about 16.6 million. The final budget remained the same, and the actual results came in about 16.3 million, which was about 390,000 less than the prior year. Okay. And most of that came from, if you look at the departmental income, the fourth number down for 2021, it was 2,047,000. In 2020, it was 2.5 million. And that's mostly from the parking lot and the permit fees, which are directly related to COVID. Yeah. Okay. So that 485 pretty much accounts for the total decrease in your revenues. Some of the other revenues went up and down. The sales tax, which is in the non-property tax item, the third number down, was up about $254,000. The license and permits was up about $130,000. So there was some rebound from COVID, but the parking certainly didn't pick up where the others left off. And the fines and the forfeitures, again, directly related to COVID, is down about $265,000. So overall, your revenues were down about $390,000. On the expenditure side, the total expenditures were up about $450,000. And that increase was pretty much spread throughout all of the functions. If you look across from left to right, you could see that there isn't one major expenditure that went up, which means that the village basically controlled your expenses because it went up $450,000 on a $16 million budget, which is considered very good. And if you look at the other financing sources and uses, in the 2021, the bond that you issued, the $13 million bond, you received a premium of $339,000. And that's basically what your surplus is for the year. the third number up from the bottom, the net change in fund balance, the $348,000. That's basically due to the premium. That's all the revenues and expenditures for the most part offset. The spread between the two of them was $60,000. Okay, the expenses were higher by $450, the revenues were down by $390. So you had this surplus, the net change in fund balance of $348,000. And if you look to the right, the variance column, the $1,290,000, which means that overall on a budgetary basis, you had a positive budgetary variance of almost 1.3 million. So if you go back to the net change in fund balance, the $348,000, add that to your fund balance at the beginning of the year, the $9,207,000, you ended the year with a total fund balance of $9,555,000. All right. Any questions? Okay, if you flip back to page 51, which is the general fund comparative balance sheet, I just want to focus on the bottom portion of the page, which is your fund balance. You have 4 categories in the fund balance section. The first one is the non-spendable, which if you look at the last number in the...
Sorry, where are you again? I just was looking back on the last page.
Page 51.
We're still, yeah,
Just
okay.
before we move, well, we're on 52 and 53. So I think just to sum up where we are, when we went into the budgeting process, Jim and Lori and the trustees had budgeted drawing down the fund balance by about $940 some odd thousand.
Right, that's reflected on page 52. If you look at the second number up from the bottom where it's the change in fund balance, that bracketed 942,000.
Yeah.
That includes the 900,000 that you appropriate. 800, well, it's 800,000 actually. In 20, you took 800,000 out of the 2020 fund balance and used it to balance the 2021 budget. Okay, which basically means that you anticipated utilizing or using that 800,000.
Right.
Because you had a balanced budget, and if everything came true exactly as you had budgeted, you would have used that 800,000. But in reality, you generated a surplus of almost 348,000, thereby generating the positive budgetary variance of 1.3 million.
But I just want to make sure everyone understands that point is that we as trustees had the expressed intent of using fund balance to help minimize any increase in taxes. So, and it turns out that Jim and Lori and the whole team did an amazing job, but our intent was to deplete fund balance to a much greater extent.
You're
Right,
absolutely
Right, and then I'm sorry, then if I could just remind for anyone who's watching is that, again, these are the financial statements for the fiscal year ending May 31 of 21. The board had to adopt the budget by May 1st of 2020, and you actually did a little bit earlier. And of course, we were just in the beginning of COVID. As you know, I had to get the tentative budget to you by March 20th. So obviously a lot of unknowns at that time, but yes, the board used the 800,000 appropriated fund balance with the intent of minimizing the levy increase, which for the year end of 2021, the final budget was a levy increase of 1.82%. And in addition to the 800,000, you did use the 125,000 of tax stabilization that you had set aside from the previous year. But for anyone watching, again, the budget came out on March 20th. We really had our first spread within the county from COVID on March 4th. So you can see that timing of it. And then, of course, you adopted the budget in the middle of April with a lot of unknowns at that time. So as we saw revenues starting to come in lower, as Alan pointed out, obviously our exposure being from the lack of parking permit sales, and then as a result of the court closing down, that resulted in an inability to dispose of parking tickets, so that hit the fines. But the staff worked hard to also start controlling expenses. So that kind of shows that side of the equation, as Alan was explaining. So revenues came in under, but we in turn reduced expenses. Sorry.
What the two of you had just said is exactly 100% correct. But historically, the village has always budgeted their revenues on a conservative basis, which is definitely the right thing to do. Because aside from your property taxes, I've been saying this for years, and thanks to COVID, or, it really wasn't a gift, but because of COVID, it just proved that to be true. By budgeting your revenues conservatively, you had a minimal negative variance on your revenue side. Had you not done that, as some other municipalities have done, they often take the prior year's actuals and increase it slightly to prepare the budget for the subsequent year. You've always been very conservative, because the increase from 2020, a budget of 16.5 million to a budget of 16.6 million, was conservative. And as a result, you basically fared the effects of the virus and COVID fairly well, okay, aside from parking. But the point is, by doing it conservatively, the only revenue that you're really guaranteed is your property taxes. Other than that, every other revenue is basically subject to, in this particular case, it was directly affected by COVID. And then the other thing you said, which was true, by managing the appropriation side of the budget, which is where you can manage the budget and control the budget, you did that as well. And that generated a positive variance of a little over $1 million. So despite the effects of being shut down and COVID and so forth, the village came out fairly well, thanks to the board and the budget and all the department heads and so forth, by controlling their expenditures. So if you turn back to page 51, on the bottom of the page, as I was saying, you have 4 components to your fund balance. The non-spendable, the 13,000, is the prepaid expenditures, which are listed in the asset section. Those are expenditures that you paid for in 2021 that are due in 2022, so that money is not available. You have your restricted fund balance of 367,000, and that's your reserve for debt service. Whenever you issue debt and you receive a premium, that premium is basically restricted to pay off the debt service. And that's what you did. And in the prior year, it was 128,000. Due to the issuance of the bond this year, increased to 367,000. In the assigned fund balance of 942,000, you have $925,000 that you've taken from this budget to balance the 21-22 budget, which is an increase of 125,000 from what you did in 2020 to 2021, going into the 21-22 budget. Then you had your unassigned fund balance, which is basically the same as it was in the prior year, of 8,231,000. And that's approximately 46% of your 21-22 appropriations. And according to the New York State Comptroller's Office, that's a very good fund balance. You're in good shape. It's a rainy day fund. Okay.
Would that be, Alan, would that be for communities size, would that be top quartile or top decile?
In your particular case, it's comparable to a lot of villages in terms of the percentage. Obviously, the dollar amount varies based on your budget,
Yeah.
But, if you think about it, $8 million it's a fair amount of money. But if you have a major project that you had to undertake, any infrastructure project that was a major project, that $8 million could be eaten up very quickly.
Right. Okay.
Alan, oh, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Sure.
No,
go ahead.
Helen, that's fine. I just wanted to kind of establish that this wasn't some way out of the communities of our size. One of the reasons why we have a AAA rating as a village and can issue bonds so inexpensively, but it's not in some way punishing future residents for the benefit, or present residents for the benefit of the future. But this is a prudent level to have, with the understanding we're trying to preserve a bond rating, but we're not way out of some norm.
And you also have to remember that whenever you appropriate fund balance to balance the subsequent year's budget, that's basically like a one-shot revenue, so to speak. Because if you did that year after year and you ran a deficit instead of a surplus, that fund balance would be whittled away.
Alan, I seem to recall from when I first looked at the budget on the board, maybe I guess it was 2 years ago now, that that percentage was in the 30s, like 36 or 38%. Am I remembering that correctly? We're definitely trending up.
Right. Well, the budget, the percentage from 2020 was probably comparable to this because your overall budget, as I said, didn't go up that much.
Like 2019 or 2018, is it?
Yeah, that information I don't have in front of me. I know it's been a healthy fund balance because that certainly does contribute to your AAA rating.
Yeah.
Because as a result of that, when you did issue the bonds this year in 2021, the $13 million, the interest rate on those bonds is 2%, which is extremely good.
Even
Okay.
lower than that. I think it was closer to 1.7, even 1.7 now.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, to answer Helen's point, yes, we were, yes, 2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. Yes, with the exception of the COVID year, we were absolutely increasing that number.
But the fact is, it's,
Yeah, it's not fund balance, yeah.
I mean, when people hear numbers and they hear 46% and so forth, they think it's excessive. I don't believe that this $8 million is excessive in any way. I mean, this is a rainy day fund. Fortunately, you didn't have to use it during the pandemic, but it certainly was a possibility. And I know going forward, you're going to be receiving additional federal aid, the ARP money, which is, I don't know if you're aware of it, but they came out with did you get that email from the GFOA with the $10 million cap on the revenue loss recovery?
I haven't read it yet.
Okay, well, basically, there's this ARPA money, the American Recovery monies, and the GFOA or the state came out, the feds came out with it early or in the middle of the year. And basically, they were giving you X number of dollars. And I think you probably received the first bucket of that money already.
Right, yes.
And they said to you that, how much did you receive, Jim? Do you recall, or Lori?
Sure.
328.
325, 328, Lori, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Roughly.
again, 2 payments, first payment came in right around the middle of July, yes, yep.
Right, okay. So initially, when you received that money, they were telling you that if you did a comparison from 21 to 20, and based on the formula, there was a formula that had to be done, and you indicated, and it showed a revenue loss. I mean, there were certain exclusions and add-ons and so forth. But if you showed a revenue loss for, say, $200,000, that meant that the money you received initially, up to $200,000 of it, could be used for general revenues. And the balance would have to be used for infrastructure. But they recently came out with a final ruling, I think it was the end of last week or the week before, which said anything up to $10 million, you do not have to submit the calculation. And if your revenue recovery is 10 million or less, you could use it all for general revenues. Okay? So that calculation, Lori, you do not have to prepare
Go on.
because I'm sure that the revenue loss is not greater than $10 million. Which means that you could use that money that you got from the ARPA for general revenues. It just means you can use it. If you wanted to use it for infrastructure projects, you certainly can. Some
Still
municipalities,
wouldn't have to fill out that 10 million. I would still wouldn't have to fill out that calculation, even though
You
I'm
do
using
not-
that money for capital.
you do not have, well, let's put it, you do not have to fill out the revenue loss recovery form as long as it's under 10 million, which we pretty sure it's not, which means that of the monies that you receive, you could take it all and bring it into general revenues. There are certain very loose limitations on what you could spend it on, or you could use it all for infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
You know what?
interest.
Yeah, no, that's helpful to know, actually, because I did know, I had not read that piece, but I will say certainly myself, my colleagues, New York State, something that we were quite concerned with was the onerous requirements of reporting how you spent that money. So the initial discussions I had had with the board was, and at least Lori, was about applying it for certain infrastructure projects that were relatively straightforward. So that's, I did not know about that latest change. So that's real positive.
Right. And if you and the board put together a wish list of how you wanted to spend that money and send it to me, I could review it because we have reviewed several wish lists for other clients in terms of how they're going or how they plan or would like to spend the money, just to make sure it's within the guidelines. Because like with all federal grants, there are fairly stringent regulations as to how you spend it and the documentation you need to support it and so forth. Nothing outrageous, but you do have to, dot your I's and cross your T's whenever you're submitting, a report as to how the money was spent.
Alan, the village was, to the best of my knowledge, they were planning on using this for either sewer infrastructure, which was one project, and they had some other planning expenditures for hazard and flood mitigation. So with that in mind, that appeared to be eligible expenditures under the Treasury guidelines. It wasn't the final ones, but it was like the next to the final ones that I had read. And they appeared to be valid. My concern was that these projects are already ongoing and not brand new ones. Is that okay?
I believe it is. I could-
Ellen, oh, sorry, I'm just worried about our timing for the
Right, we don't,
public
right,
meeting,
yeah,
because
you're right.
after 7, so maybe we could.
Oh, you have another meeting. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's
that's
right, you're
okay.
right, we don't
I'm
need to,
sorry.
right, no, I appreciate it, we don't need to get into further on the ARPA money, because, right, the board will be discussing that further when we go over our capital program. Alan, I'm sorry, yeah, any other items that we wanted to go through? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to indicate that you paid off your bonds for 7.2. You issued the bonds for the 13 million at 2% and an excellent interest rate. There was a management letter. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. There were 2 control deficiencies which have appeared in the prior years, which you all have a copy of on the management letter. And it's nothing major, so we don't need to discuss that. And that's really it. I mean, all the other funds are in good shape. The audit went very well. Lori and Jim were very well prepared. There were no issues. And overall, the village is in good shape. And Jim and the board, when you do have your list, if you want me to review anything that you have in terms of ARPA and the projects, please just send it to me. And
Will
I'll
do. Thank you.
let you know.
Thank you,
Other
Alan.
than that, everything went well, and Happy New Year to all, and stay well.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan.
you.
That was
Very
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 helpful
much.
presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
You're
Helen.
very welcome all.
And
And
Alan,
always a thank you to Jim and Lori, because it just gets easier for us every year when you two do it as a team. So thank you both.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is, again, I thank the entire village team, because we, honestly, it was, and we all know, it was the year 2020, 21 was like nothing any of us had ever seen before.
Right.
So still budgeting conservatively, as Alan said, absolutely helped. Watching every expenditure has always made a huge difference. So we're real pleased. And then the deputy mayor, I think, will follow up with you, as he always does, Alan, separately. So if there's anything that you wanted to share with him that you don't feel comfortable sharing with the treasurer and I on the call, right, Bob?
yes, so in lieu of, if we were in person, we would break for an executive session, but in lieu of that, I'll coordinate a time to catch up by phone, as we've done in past years.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Alan.
You're very welcome all.
Yep, thanks so much, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
trying to keep us close to time, I need a motion to close our work session and reopen our regular meeting of January 10th, 2022. Do I have a
So moved.
motion? Helen, thank you. A second, Bob. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. And as is custom, I see we will start with special guest. I see that our county legislator, Mr. Nolan, is on the call. And I appreciate thank you for coming to our meeting, even though it's only Zoom. And if you would like to, I know you're a lifelong resident of the district, but you're new
Yes.
to many Bronxville residents. So if you would like to share a little bit and frankly, introduce yourself to the residents of Bronxville. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for everybody for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be on here to introduce myself as the new county legislator for District 15. I've been working very hard since even before I got sworn in to set up meetings with many people. I've set up meetings with Mayor Marvin, many people in Bronxville, to get a good idea of how I could best serve the community and just hearing different needs. A little bit about myself. I have been a lifelong resident of Yonkers, and I have visited Bronxville many times before I was elected into office. I've started off as a community activist. I've done a lot in the community with a lot of public safety. I was the president of a nonprofit organization where I've helped provide a lot of essential needs and basics for the community and scholarships for children. I've also been very active in the community with laws as well. So this is my first time going into politics, and I'm very excited. I'm going to work extremely hard. I've walked your beautiful village many times, and I've actually lost.
We lost you. You went on mute, James.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I've walked your beautiful village many times, and I'm looking forward to continuing doing that to best serve the residents, because I feel that as an elected official, we should be going to them and asking how I could best serve them instead of, just waiting at times for them to come to us, because we don't always know what is on their mind, what they're feeling, what they're going through. So try and just get through to them. But there's many different things that I'm working on. I know that Bronxville is a lot different from Yonkers. I'm looking forward to learning as much as possible with Bronxville and helping in any capacity that I can help make Bronxville even better than what it is. But I'm very excited. I'm going to be energetic about this. I'm going to be welcoming. I'm going to be warming. I'm going to be accepting to a lot of stuff. I'm going to hear everybody out. That's just my nature. What's going on here? Sorry. If anybody needs me in any way, please just reach out to my office, or you could write to me on social media. I'm always on. Basically, it's another line of communication for everybody. And if there's any questions, please just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you because our village gives almost, I was looking it up, $8 million to the county budget. So anything
Definitely.
that can come our way would be so appreciated. So look
Definitely.
forward to working with you for the needs of Bronxville. And thank you.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Okay, then we go to our usual mayor's report, and my report is just, I'm lucky, it's wonderfully good tonight. The biggest news that happened literally a day or two after our December meeting was that the Picture House Regional Film Center, formerly called the Pelham Picture House, is taking over our historic movie theater, which frankly had been in continuous operation since 1929. And they're going to extend their film and their educational programs to our theater. They're going to have the 3 screens and do all sorts of different programming. This one, I just have to say it's a huge thank you because it was collaboration at its best. I, of course, thank the Picture House Board, Bowtie Cinema, who worked with them, Admiral Real Estate, and John Gordon, who was the lessor, and of course, this Board of Trustees, who worked really diligently to keep our movie theater. And a special thank you to literally dozens of residents, village residents, who stepped up and offered all their help to keep the theater alive. And they have pledged to work with the Picture House people, and the Picture House people are thrilled to connect with our residents. So honestly, it was touch and go for a while, but I don't think it could have come out any better than it did. So we feel mighty grateful. Just to follow up, because I'm still asked a fair bit about the Iona Concordia transfer, so it's worth repeating. Iona took over the 28 acres that was formerly Concordia College on December 7th, and they have formed a partnership with New York Presbyterian Hospital, and it's called the NYP Iona School of Health Services. And it's all started thanks to a $20 million gift from New York Presbyterian. But in addition to the healthcare school, our Iona president, Dr. Seamus Carey, said that the campus will be a vibrant hub of world-class seminars, speakers, performing arts, athletics, summer camps, and he promises to host all of those on the Iona campus. Classes there, you actually will not see class activity there though until January of next year. And last news, Trustee Behrens, Trustee Fredericks, Village Administrator Palmer, and myself, we invited Congressman Jamal Bowman down to visit the village. He graciously accepted our invitation very quickly. He came down last week. We concentrated on showing him the flooding issues. So we took him to Parkway Road, the Bronx River. We showed him the bridge that was destroyed at the Duck Pond, asked him questions about the Army Corps of Engineers, and he promised to work with us. So I think we started what is a really nice collaborative relationship with our new congressman. And that's the end of my report. Happy that it was all good news this month. And I turn it over to the village administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Let's see, village offices will be closed next Monday, January 17th, in commemoration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And just a reminder to everyone that the board moved our traditional second Monday of the month for our monthly meeting to February 7th, the first Monday in February, due to the mayor's attendance and my attendance at our NICOM winter legislative meeting in February on the 14th. Just a reminder that, of course, as always, the village is going around picking up the Christmas trees. If you just leave those curbside, we will make sure that those are turned into mulch and recycled. And then just a reminder, I occasionally continue to get emails on light outages, and I just wanted residents and business owners to know that they can report a street light that's out through our website by going to the Public Works page and then noting the location. Just click on the tab for reporting a street light outage. And then also the board will be meeting on Saturday, January 22nd. Have a work session at 9 a.m. to organize some of our priorities for the year, including some of the local laws that we've talked about at length, and prioritize those, along with some other outstanding items that we've talked about, where I can give you a status update on where things are, such as the on-street dining and what some of the other communities are considering going forward, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to,
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry, one other thing. Trustee Knapp, I don't know if you wanted to mention, about the, one of the upcoming public meetings that's required as part of the Climate Smart Task Force. Did you want to clarify anything on that, or Stephen?
No, I think just as you say, the Climate Smart Community Task Force is hoping to apply for bronze certification by the July deadline. And as part of that, it needs to hold 2 public meetings, the first of which will be on Thursday, February 3rd at 7 p.m. by Zoom. So we'll obviously post that on the village website, but I encourage everybody to attend. The committee is doing a fantastic job of gathering all the points necessary to get to bronze certification.
and then any other trustee comments? This is a moment, or you can add at the end of regular business. Trustee Barron's, that newsletter gets better every month.
You.
It's fabulous.
We continue to want residents to sign up for the newsletter. We currently have just over about 2,600 people, unique emails on there. And we obviously are looking for more. It's a monthly newsletter that goes out to people's in email inboxes, and it gives a lot of good information about what's going on in the village. And it's very informative. And I think it can be a good tool for people to understand what the village is and what we do and all the good things that are going on. And then the mayor, you asked me to speak about the Safe Street initiatives. You want me to do that now or later?
Absolutely, that's great. You and Bill can,
Yeah, and Bill, I told Bill I'd take the lead and he'd jump in where I left off, or where I left out. But Bill and I have been asked by the mayor to be the trustees assigned to the Safe Street Initiative group. They're a group of residents that are passionate about the walkability of the village. Andrew Langhoff, who's on the Zoom call tonight, is leading the charge, but it's a great group of folks. And they have many work streams going on. I'm just going to kind of talk about 3 of them. Bill might jump in and add more. But first is a crosswalk that we've been talking about on White Plains Road that would connect the east side of the village with the west side of the village, and it would come down Elm Rock, and it would have a sidewalk on Duesenberry and Paddington. We had a very productive meeting last week, a Zoom call with that state Senator Shelley Mayer spearheaded for all of us, with the county and the New York State Department of Transportation. And we were pleased to be given the go-ahead to undertake the project, subject to securing the funds. There's obviously a lot of things that need to go into getting that started, but we have a resolution on that Bill Fredericks drafted, and he will talk about in the resolution section in quite detail, so I won't add any more there. The second pillar is our sidewalks, and we as a village will inventory all our sidewalks, recommend repairs where needed, and make sure we keep our sidewalks intact. We have a work session that Jim mentioned on Saturday, January 22nd, and this hopefully will be on the agenda, and we'll get to spend more time on our ordinances regarding sidewalks and how to make them even better. The third pillar is the creation of various safe routes to school across the village. The consultant the county hired for us, FHI, courtesy of our then legislator Ruth Walter, I believe she's on the call, worked on suggestions from the east side of town to the school, which included the Route 22 crosswalk that I discussed earlier. And it's now, we now need to decide if we're going to hire our own consultant to continue that work on that corridor and work on the other corridors around the village. And to that extent, Andrew Langhoff and Chip Spear, who are also on the Zoom call tonight, will speak during the public comment section about the draft RFP that they drafted, the State Safe Street Initiative Group has drafted and their thoughts on that. So that was my summary, Bill. I don't know if I missed anything, if you wanted to add anything.
I think you really covered it very well, Trustee Behrens. Just to clarify, the sidewalks you mentioned from Paddington to Duesenberry, just to clarify that would be a sidewalk on the White Plains Post Road running from Paddington to Duesenberry. It's a requirement to have a sidewalk on the opposite side of Route 22 because otherwise New York State won't authorize a sidewalk that just leaves people in the road on the other side of the street as opposed to a sidewalk. So just to clarify for people who may be living on Paddington and Duesenberry, it's not sidewalks going down those streets, but it would be a sidewalk connecting those streets at Route 22. With respect to the sidewalks inventory project, I'll just mention that we've reached out to, amongst others, the Bronxville Historical Conservancy to get input from them as to the extent to which the village may have lost some sidewalks over the decades. And they're uniquely well positioned to help us identify lost sidewalks of Bronxville. And maybe it's appropriate to bring some of those back, maybe not, but it's again, it's just so great to see the community input and to again see Andrew Langhoff and Chip Spear from the Safe Streets on the call. Personally, I feel it would be remiss not to just also give a shout out to Ann Jenks on the Route 22 crosswalk, because I think if any citizen was really picking up the cudgels on that, she's been a force to be reckoned with in a very good and positive way. And thanks also to Ruth Walter, who I've actually also spoken to and who has again volunteered her assistance and in helping us navigate processes to get money from Westchester in a private citizen capacity with her expertise. But we all have work to do here, and I won't cut in any more into Andrew's and Chip's time, but something we're all looking forward to pursuing.
And I'm counting on our legislator. I think he is still on board, Legislator Nolan, to also step in your official capacity to help us get some county money to keep these programs going. So we'll fully get you up to speed on what we're trying to accomplish and our needed partnership with the county. So
sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All righty. Now I'm going to, anything else, trustees, so I don't cut anyone off? No? I need a motion to approve our minutes from the December 4th, 2021 work session, as well as the regular meeting of that date. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're set on the minutes. Mr. Palmer, one public hearing. Do I need to open the public hearing at this moment with a motion, council?
Yes.
Yes, all right. I need a motion to open public hearing on local law 1-2022.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion? I trust
Second.
me. Okay,
I'm sorry, who made that motion?
Ellen, trustee Knapp moved it, and do I have a second?
Second.
Second, trustee Frederick, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the public hearing is open. Mr. Palmer.
Sure, just a very simple change. This is to amend chapter 61 of the village code where it defines the duties of the village administrator to now also include the responsibilities of the assistant village administrator. And that is specifically to fulfill the duties of the village administrator in the village administrator's absence. So again, first local law of the year, amending chapter 61, which spells out the duties of the village administrator, now also including the assistant village administrator, and that the assistant village administrator will fill the duties of the village administrator if he's not available.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. I think last year you took about 4 days off the entire year, so.
Yeah, there's not many times you're not available, Jim.
Yeah, which is never, but we have a very capable gentleman in Stephen Shallow who has helped us. So it's wonderful that Stephen is going to be, you both are going to continue this great collaboration and frankly, formalize it, codify it, which is needed.
Right, and I should say yes, and there to your point, this is what we are doing here is consistent with some of the other villages,
Right.
including the village of Larchmont, the village of Rybrook. Stephen's current title is assistant to the village administrator. This would allow for the change of his title to assistant, which seems not like a whole heck of a lot, but there are additional duties for an assistant, thereby including, in my absence, being able to step into those positions. And of course, Stephen has taken on more responsibilities over the last few years, which I am absolutely appreciative of. So just wanted to clarify that piece. So, yeah.
Perfect. Any discussion, trustees? I think it's kind of straight. It's all righty, then I need I'm allowed anyone on the call who wants to comment on this public hearing is allowed to at this juncture. Okay, seeing none, then I need a motion to close our public hearing.
So
Okay,
for second,
trustee Behrens and deputy mayor Underhill, all those in favor? Aye.
aye.
Okay, hearing is closed and I think it appears the board would be ready to adopt the local laws. So do I have a motion and a second to adopt local law 1-2022?
So moved.
Okay, trustee Knapp moves it and I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Okay, Mr. Palmer. Our
Congratulations,
online-
Stephen.
Yeah, congratulations, Jim and Stephen.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
I only expect you to work every weekend now. I didn't tell you about that.
No problem.
Yeah, read the fine print.
He knows how terrible I am. I'm like, you keep that phone on all the time.
And the hard part for Stephen is he lives on Midland Avenue, so there's no excuse.
They'll be here all the time.
Yeah.
So,
All right, now-
yes, so we discussed this, the next item, which is a resolution authorizing the acceptance and implementation of online tax payments by the treasurer. We discussed this before we had our auditor present. This is kudos to our treasurer. Lori's been working on this for an extended period of time. And we found a proposal from Paymentus, which is a subsidiary of JP Morgan Bank, one of our principal banking institutions that the village utilizes as the most logical choice for an online banking arrangement. And the resolution indicates what we'll be able to accept online, which is consistent also with the guidance from the New York State Controller's Office. It includes credit cards, debit cards, e-checks, digital wallets, including PayPal, PayPal Credit, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Venmo. We also discussed in the work session the charges associated with those, which was $1 for the e-check, also known as ACH payments. And then the charge for the other transactions, including debit cards, credit cards, would be 2.49%.
And I think we discussed, I think Trustee Barron's mentioned that as we get closer to the new tax cycle, we may want to do some informational outreach to the residents, because this is a big change, a positive change, but the options are much greater now.
Right, and for the public's edification, right, we will absolutely, this would be for implementation at the start of the new fiscal year with the new tax bill mailing cycle, where the bills go out on June 1st. And we would continue to mail out hard copies of the bill, but there will be instructions on the back of the bill explaining what the options are. And we'll also be sure to provide information on that over the course of April and May. But residents will continue to, if they have a better level of comfort, that could, of course, can continue to come into Village Hall to drop their check off in the office or pay by credit card in the office. But we have received requests for additional payment options, and Lori had carefully vetted this service with the village attorney, and of course reviewed the village's policy as it relates to all securities and anyway, best practices.
Okay, then do I have a motion to authorize our?
Mayor, can I just say one thing?
Oh,
just-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mary.
I think Lori also explained to us during the work session that large municipalities like Syracuse are using this, and it hasn't been rolled down to many smaller municipalities, but they are focused on getting Westchester involved, and Lori jumped on the chance at it. So I think we're taking an opportunity, an opportunity that was just made available to us and grabbing it. But it's not a new opportunity. Other municipalities are using it quite successfully. They're just the larger municipalities, but now we have the option at our smaller village to have something like this. And again, it's optional. It's not, you don't have to pay online. You can do, as Jim said, use the drop box or bring it into the front desk, and you can still get a receipt the old fashioned way. But if you want to do something more online, this gives you that great option to do that.
Well said. Thank you for adding that. Trustees, any other comment before I ask for a motion? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to have Treasurer Lori Voss accept online tax payments? Okay, the Deputy Mayor moved it and Trustee Knapp seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And our last resolution, Village Administrator, is to have you serve as our budget officer, which again, I believe is pretty pro forma, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And again, this is also defined in Chapter 61 of the code that the board can authorize me to serve in this role. I like to always put it on there because it's the kickoff of budget season. And once again, Lori and I are already well underway, and there'll be many a weekends working on the budget. But yes, we make for a great team, but I will once again get that budget to you before the end of March.
Perfect. Trustees, any discussion on that? That's a yearly thing we do. Okay, seeing none, I need a motion to approve Mr. Palmer as our budget officer.
So moved.
I'll
Okay,
second.
and a second by trustee Fredericks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. And Mr. Palmer, maybe now you'll work a little harder. You know?
If that's possible.
Yeah.
I'll see my family in May.
May, yeah. All right, this is the moment, trustees, if anybody, if I inadvertently,
No, Mary,
yeah.
we've got the other resolution that we've added since the agenda was printed.
I
the
count
sidewalk.
on you. I just so worry about running a tight ship here that I forgot. My mistake, we have an addition that all thanks to trustee Fredericks, who over the weekend crafted this for us. So Mr. Palmer, do you want to explain? This is to get our safe routes crosswalk going immediately.
Right, so Bill summarized the resolution or our meeting that we had last Friday with DOT and representatives of the county very well in this resolution, and it simply authorized me to seek out and obtain bids for review and approval by the board for the design of those improvements as recommended by FHI. So we could, the board could consider retaining an engineer or planner to get this work in place so that we could actually get the design done in the winter/spring, and then get the improvements constructed again sometime in 2022. So the resolution, you can certainly still approve it. The good news is, as I was mentioning earlier in the work session, is consistent with one of the items that Bill had put in there, reaching out to Westchester County to assist us. I did follow up with the county. I understand that the Commissioner of Planning, Norma Drummond, has agreed to provide this work for the village.
Yeah.
Again, we have a conceptual design from FHI where the crosswalk will go. And now we have the clarification following Friday's meeting that the Department of Transportation wants to see the sidewalk between Dusenberry and Paddington. So that'll be included in the design. So anyway, but the resolution does authorize me to, again, seek out the other funding sources. So the plan will be to get the county to do the engineering study and design, come up with a cost estimate that I can then follow up with Senator Mayor, and also with our federal agencies to see if we could get funding for the actual implementation of the improvements themselves. So.
Okay, I think it's only right that trustee Fredericks, would you like to move this? And would you like to comment on it before moving it?
I will briefly comment and
Yeah.
then so move just to so residents understand the sequence that Mr. Palmer outlined. The first step is, although we have conceptual designs from FHI, those need to be upgraded to sort of engineering plans. It's something that you could give a contractor to bid on. Getting a contractor to bid on it would then be the next step. And then, of course, board consideration of bids and actual authorization of spending of funds would be a third step. My understanding from talking to Mr. Palmer is that it's likely that we would have the flexibility as a village to go ahead and approve things to get things started once all the prerequisites are done, and then seek reimbursement afterwards. But as Mr. Palmer has once again demonstrated, he's 2 steps ahead of all of us, that even today he's already found ways to get hopefully county monies to start the process rolling. But it's not as if workers are going to show up tomorrow to start building something. But I think that this is really moving, and I want to thank the mayor and trustee Behrens and Mr. Palmer and Helen and everybody else who's helped move this along. And of course, a big thank you to State Senator Shelley Mayer for having, I think, cut through some red tape, and that we have gotten a commitment from New York DOT that they will issue the required permits, which are absolutely necessary because it's a state road, Route 22. But they have committed to us with the help of Senator Mayer that they will issue the permits, provided only that we construct the sidewalk on the eastern side of Route 22.
Hey, Bill, a question for you. With building the sidewalk, is that property, is that village-owned property, or is it state because it's a state road?
Obviously, we need to check that, but as a property owner adjacent to Route 22, who had my property surveyed, where I am about another 100 yards down, it's an 8 or 10 foot setback, and I assume it's the same for everyone down the street. But obviously, that would be part of the process.
And I will say
that village.
Yeah, and now to that point, Deputy Mayor, that was it's the state right of way.
State right of way.
That was the one thing that the state did agree to acquiesce to. The Department of Transportation is assist with defining their right of way for us. So
Right.
I will have them work with the county planners on that piece. But we're relying on the
That's
state
my
DOT.
question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great job, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Bill, for taking the mantle on this one.
Yeah, I was just the scrivener.
Yeah, well done. So
Not quite.
would you like to move that, Trustee Fredericks?
So moved.
And Trustee Barons?
Like to second it, please.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, now trustees, any closing comments from the trustees?
I just had
Trustee
one quick thing that occurred to me.
Yeah.
Jim and I don't know who else was involved with that very successful distribution of COVID test kits last month. And I know they went very quickly, and I just wonder if there's ability for the village to get more of those. I mean, there's clearly such a big demand that's not being met by, private home kits and things. So I just wondered if that's something we get from the county or the state, or does it appear and you distribute it when you can?
I gotta say, yes, we got those in the county, and so real appreciative of Westchester County. They notified us Christmas Eve, if you will, late in the day, and we picked them up that morning. I don't know I know the county is trying to get additional kits, but we don't have anything definitive on that, although there is some additional testing that is being offered, and I think we put it on the village website.
Yeah, opportunity purchase.
But no definitive date on additional tests. But I gotta say that, yeah, the county really came through, but I think Mary and the deputy mayor and Bill would attest that the kids, almost 200 of them are gone within 45 minutes, right? So.
Yeah, and we had a lot of people in line that did not receive one, which was unfortunate.
And Helen, that's a good thing to mention, because you and I were not here, but on Christmas Eve, our 3 fellow trustees ran right down here and did that. So, and it was duly noted by a lot of residents. So
thank you all for doing that.
Thank you, Mary, Bob, and Bill.
The Christmas
appreciate it.
We called them Mary. We called them stocking stuffers for the families.
There you go. Right?
Oh, that's where we're at, though, Mayor. Oh, all righty. This is the time of the meeting, and thank you, everybody, for your wonderful patience. Where anyone for 5 minutes can address the board on absolutely any topic. So if anybody would like to, maybe just raise your hand and we'll go in order. Chip, I see you were first. Chip Spear.
Well, I don't know. Andrew and I are sort of on the same page on this. I'm here representing Bronxville Safe Streets. And first, I want to really congratulate the town and the trustees for the work that they have done. And putting together the proposal to get work done for Route 22. I also want to just shout out to Ruth for helping get the funding for the consultant for FHI, who came in and ran the workshop and had some recommendations on not only for Route 22, but other areas of town. One thing that we want to emphasize as part of Safe Streets for Bronxville is that this is an amazingly great start. You guys have done a terrific job. There's a lot more to do. And we are making a request that we take the next step. And that next step is to hire a consultant to come in and take what FHI did and go a little bit further, to look at the corridors that Safe Streets has identified and the consultant identified, of which there are 5. That first quarter is what we focused on, going sort of from 22 to Masterton. But we have put together, Andrew down and has really done some work on putting together a draft RFP, and we are requesting
right here.
and that we were requesting somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 to $70,000. The exact amount, we don't know exactly how that will work out for the said consultant, but we want that consultant to come in to look at the overall plan and help us with something that is more concrete and can help us implement that over the next few years, so that Bronxville can truly be a walkable town and safe for the school children and parents. Because without those school buses, and people either are driving, which given our current climate issues, we should try to be moving more away from that. And also the traffic around schools, really be emphasizing biking, walking. And if I think it's clear to most people who walk around town that we could use some upgrades on sidewalks and bike paths and safety on school or just road crossings, especially during those busy school times. So maybe Andrew wants to add a little bit of flavor and context to my words, but also add a little bit about that, the specifics of the RFP.
Chip, you took all the words right out of my mouth, and I'm going to watch time because I know Mary does run a tight ship. So I'll just say that. Look, I'm not going to reiterate all of the accolades, because everyone from Ann to Ruth and beyond, the folks on this call are on this. I feel like we're pushing an open door, which is great. But I would say that as fantastic as the 22 crossing is, it's probably taken us a year to get to here, and it'll take us a little longer to get it built. And so a little foresight in planning the next things we think would be advisable at this point in time. So to just break off a little bit of funding to start to envision what that would look like, so we're ready to layer in the next steps, some of which might be inexpensive, we don't know, just seems to be an advisable opportunity at this point in time. And I will, if it's not too cute, take the opportunity to say that if Jim's good work has saved us on those design fees for the engineer on 22, well, I know where we can put those funds. We can put those funds right into a plan with respect to what we're going to do on corridors 2 to 5. So I never like asking for money, but I think it is important that we have a professional who can help us figure out where to focus and what to do, and to get ahead of the next changes that we will hopefully together make to make the village more walkable and more bikeable. Hello, Ruth.
Okay, and just to add, Andrew, we do have very much in the hopper happening very quickly is the enhancement of the Midland Avenue Pondfield intersection, which is one the school parents have asked for, so that anybody can walk home that has to go in any of those directions. And then we also have on the very near future docket the repair fix up at Gramerton and Pondfield. Again, another way to cross to school. And And I have to say, I probably shouldn't, but as much as a year seems like a lot to start this, this crosswalk, we've been working on one on Pondfield in 22, and the state told us it probably will be from our first request to its ribbon cutting will be 9 to 10 years, if you can believe that. So we are moving as fast as
Yes, light speed, right? Yeah.
unfortunately, the way things sometimes work. So
Right. To the mayor's point, yeah, and that's for the public, that's 10 years.
yeah,
Because now they're out to 2026, right, from when we asked them to look at the intersection of Pondfield at 22, right, which is already a signalized intersection. And they just need to put the pedestrian buttons on it. And their own DOT office put that request in 2016. It's
really
honestly, I have to admit, it's hard to believe, but yep.
yes, Ruth Walter, I saw your hand. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you?
No,
finished?
I cede my time to Ruth Walter, please.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much. And I just want to echo what Andrew and Chip have said, and how, pleased people have been that I've talked to about the responsiveness of the village, and just, bringing together all the different authorities. It's not easy. And it definitely takes concentration of effort, but getting these families safely across 22, and frankly, getting more people out of cars will reduce, our carbon footprint as a village, as well as, the traffic that, listen, there's some parents who need to be in their cars because they're zooming out right after to go to hockey practice, but that is not everyone. And there is a significant number of families with smaller children who want to feel safe. And again, if they're not driving their kid, a half a mile, and instead enjoying our beautiful village and walking, that's fewer cars in that lineup. But I also wanted to say, and this is a shout out to Ellen Edwards and the Green Committee, I picked up my food scrap kit, and I'm thrilled that the village has done this as well. 2022, here we are. And many residents, I don't know that everyone knows that they continue to be sold these kits at the village. It's not too late. My husband picked one up last week, and I'm just thrilled, and I want to thank the village for instituting this. I think it's going to make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a huge thank you to Trustee Knapp on that. And of course, Ellen Edwards, but Trustee Knapp was the partner. So
thank you, Helen.
Yeah,
It was great.
thanks, Helen. Any other person on the call that would like to speak on any topic? Trustee Fredericks.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, again, I know I speak for Trustee Behrens as well. We look forward to continuing to working with, Andrew and Chip and Ann Jenks and I think Priscilla Newman. I'm forgetting some other names on, moving forward with some of these things. There's always the prospect of bandwidth issues or fundwidth issues, but a fresh start looking at these things is just great. Something I think I've shared only with Jim and Mary Taylor Behrens is my own map here, hand done, showing in blue where the existing sidewalks in Bronxville are. And, we have some existing infrastructure we're going to look at, and, figuring out where the pieces are. I think it was interesting doing this, that if people are watching on TV, there are all these sidewalks in this area, but everything here, which is sort of east of Midland up to the Post Road, there's like no crosswalks at all. So this is really where the Route 22 crosswalk will connect to the school. It'll really hopefully fill a very significant void where there's like no sidewalk networks at all, or safe streets. And I mentioned this earlier, but again, Ruth Walter, was on the phone with her today, and again, thanks for your role in this meeting last week, following up while you were in office, and I think being above and beyond the call of duty in terms of, volunteering to be active going forward. So thanks. And at the risk of abusing my time, as I think about counting our blessings at the beginning of 2022, just to again thank Jim Palmer, Steve Shallow, and Lori Voss, who as well as Chief Satriali, who's not on the call, and our DPW team. It's really just such a pleasure as a trustee to have gotten to know you folks in recent months. And no matter how much we appreciate all the work you do, we probably still aren't appreciating it enough. And anyway, I was just thinking about at the start of 2022 that we're also fortunate to have you, and a big thank you for your work in the past and your work coming forward.
Ditto.
Yeah. Any other comments? That would be a wonderful way to end this meeting. That was very gracious of you, Bill. And honestly, I think I know you speak for all of us. So we're very lucky indeed. Anyone else? Jim Palmer, what's the date of our meeting that it changed?
February 7th.
Okay, everyone. So I need a motion to adjourn until February 7th.
So moved.
Okay, I have Trustee Knapp moving it and Deputy Mayor seconding it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, see everyone in February. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.